Bronkus, a talk entitled The Science of Quaintness, Energizing Spokane's Youth.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Shempy Bronkus. This is called The Science of Quaintness, Energizing Spokane's Tourism. Let's get started, all right? Now, let's see some hands right now. How many of you guys have heard somebody call Spokane quaint? Gosh. I mean, me. If I had a nickel, you know what I mean? You know? I'd have 2 nickels. And that's more nickels than you want, isn't it? Because, you know, nickels, not very useful anymore in today's economy, right? You all know that. And it always hurt me a little bit when I heard people call Spokane quaint, and I didn't really know why at first. I just knew that quaint was a word more often used to describe a festive candle, or a hand-knit sweater, or a precious moment figurine. Much more often than you use it to describe a city, let alone my city, our city, right? And the pain only got worse once I looked up what quaint means. Let's see. According to dictionary.com, which I think we can agree is a authority, number 1, having old-fashioned attractiveness or charm. Number 2, strange, peculiar, or unusual in an amusing way. Not so bad. Number 3, skillfully or cleverly made, like those figurines. Number 4, obsolete. Obsolete, my God. Just like that nickel. But let me ask you something. Let me ask you something tonight. Haven't you ever held on to a nickel that you felt personally connected to? Haven't you held on to a nickel that you thought was particularly shiny? Maybe a nickel that you thought would bring you good luck? Maybe a nickel that had your birth year on it. And furthermore, let me ask you, have you not, wouldn't you like to hold on to a nickel that was made out of fair trade metal? Wouldn't you like to hold on to a nickel that, where maybe Thomas Jefferson had a rat-ass beard? What about a nickel that actually grants your wishes? But actually. Well, you know, guys, Spokane's problem is a lot like that of the nickels. And I think I've just shown that we can solve the nickels problem. You see, this quaintness that is ascribed to us as part of our culture here in the Pacific Northwest, that we are embroiled in, whether we like it or not. We're known for quaintness here, for better or for worse. All we can do is hope to embrace it. Take the weight off of that 4th definition, put on the first 3. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Well, you know there are a few cities that have done that successfully and turned quaintness into the fuel that powers the entire city. Believe me. Now, you know, don't. That's fine. I got evidence. Let's start with the most obvious example, Portland. Now, Portland is, if you've ever been there, you know that they have a culture of proud weirdness. They've got that television show about how the dream of the 90s is alive there. You know, there's quaintness, there's quirkiness, and just goofy cuteness in every nook and cranny of the city. Walking through the streets, you're not sure whether or not you're trapped in a dream that Zooey Deschanel is having. Portland is leading the nation right now in quaintness. There is no question about it. Now, the second example, a little bit closer to home. It's called Seattle. Now, Seattle is known as one of the most depressing cities in the world. It's true. Well, in the U.S. at least. And despite that, it's managed to be a rather charming place to be, which is why it's come to be known as the Eeyore of cities. Seattle has those cultural fixtures like the Space Tower and monorail. It's got folk heroes like Jimi Hendrix and Kurt Cobain, right? That strongly characterize it as being, you know, hip, retro, obsessed with 1950s futurism, into that sludgy guitar sound. It's kind of like New York and LA's stoner older brother, right? And Seattle's got its share of quirks too, I'll have you know. Evident most in its nickname, the Emerald City, which connotes in your mind that green city of L. Frank Baum's epic tale, and the adventures of Oz. But truthfully, does nothing. It tells you nothing that our state's nickname doesn't already say. It's repetitive, but you buy it. But you buy it. So where does that leave us here in Spokane? Quaintness is all we have. It's a little too late to change our image. All right? It's either we compete against Seattle and Portland, or we're competing against the American consumers. No way. But you know, Seattle and Portland, as well as they're doing it fake. They're doing it fake. I'll tell you that right now, it's only skin deep, the quaintness. And how do you beat a great fake? With real deal. These people deal in manufactured magic. I tell you, it comes down to nothing more than the loud atmosphere in the TGI Fridays, plunging you into a numbed sense where suddenly you're spending $6 on a slice of darn pizza. That's what it's all about. But we here in Spokane can keep our stuff cheap, bring people in, and build the city into what we know it is, because we've got something up our sleeves. We do. And yes, I'm talking about real magic, folks. In the days before days, the 5 grand ancient ones carved into the land the channels of life force using the divine blade of eternity, Shahak-Dalak. Now, unfortunately, Shahak-Dalak was shattered in the interdimensional war, and its shards were cast to the 5 corners of the universe, never to be reforged again without the help of Cremeldethes, the lord of the asteroid forge, and the only whose fires are hot enough to re-weld them. But that is another story. These grooves in the land still exist and are the reason why there is life all over the world. And their myriad paths converge on the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan. Now, as you can see right here, the red lines represent primary channels. That's a direct connection. This right here is the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan. Now, this is right here, Spokane, Washington. You can see it hits Los Angeles, which is responsible for why their buildings are so big. It passes through the Great Lakes, imbuing them with their greatness. Now, this secondary and tertiary paths are not quite as strong, clearly. Prinderman's box form is still an anomaly to us. But we're getting there. They're called ley lines, folks, and we are sitting on one. We are in an energetic vortex, sucking power directly from the high throne of Teotihuacan, where sits the third of the great ancients, Matrazankos, slayer of the Dremph, savior of worldkind. She rules with an iron fist. And she will give us the quaintness that we desire. See, since we sit on this line, she speaks to us through her emissary, Brazambus. I've been meeting with Brazambus. I'm crying thinking about him. I haven't seen him in a while. It was 2 months ago was the last time I spoke with Brazambus, and we first began to commune in my long timeouts when I was a child. When he told me these secrets that I tell you now. As his emissary, he has given me a 3-point business plan that will put us back on our feet. So let's talk to it. Brazambus, this 3-point plan. Number 1, we must respond to the calling of Matrazankos. You've all felt it. You've felt that pulling down to the southwest, east, This means we must throw our firstborn into the river. We must do it with coldness. We must not look into their eyes, for it is necessary. We must take a slaughtered chicken and plant its bones in City Hall. This is to keep away vagrant spirits. Step 2 is to accept her gift. This is the nice part. We're going to get more street trees. They're going to grow up like little plants. Going to see more plentiful harvests. That wheat that brings people to Spokane. We are going to see the dead rising to protect ourselves in the case of an invasion from the north. And third, this is quite important, Brazambus told me, we must instate me as the high priest lord in charge of the yearly tourist sacrifices. Now, I'm projecting that we will see an increase of such voluminous nature that these yearly sacrifices will be quite easy to meet, and it'll seem like a drop in the ocean. But that's what we've got going on here. I have a Twitter account that you can ask me for later. But this is what we're talking about, guys, getting us back on our feet here in Spokane with the real magic. Thank you. My name is Shempy Bronkus.